A lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippy Canoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME Scoops.com.
Hey, boys and girls. We are going to talk about S&W shooters and prospectors. What is S&W shooters and prospectors?
We at S&W Shooters and Prospectors help people find treasure.
Did you say treasure?
Yes, treasure. Just listen to this amazing review from our happy customer, Jackie Sparrow.
Chocolate ship-shape and a pleasure to deal with. I was able to buy everything that I needed at prices that were shillings less than others. I found my 9 pieces of meat in no time. Savvy?
I know you're asking yourself, why should I shop at S&W Shooter and Prospectors?
Chuck Smalley has over 45 years of metal detecting experience. He works with each customer one-on-one to customize their setup to match their skill level.
So if you always dreamt of being a pirate, contact Chuck at S&W Shooters and Prospectors and he'll take a great deal for you.
iPads and rum not included.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, the fine print's out of the way. It's time to roll with the show. We're back. We're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, Metal Detecting and Treasure Hunting Radio for all the really cool digging people out there. Big shout out to Charlene in the chat. I see she's in. Chuck, the Bills, Elusive. Number of people dropping in. Good to see, definitely. And I'm sure Ohio Relic Hunter will be throwing the number out there in the chat because there may be some surprises in store for some of the listeners. You just never know. Links in the description. Obviously, our friends over at Shooters and Prospectors, A.I.P, XTREME Scoops, DETECTEES, TheRingFinders, Terry Shannon's website, Nokta Makro website, Treasure Hunting Outfitters website. Those that saw the post today saw the link for their website. Also, don't forget sabichbooks.com. And we've got a number of Facebook groups and YouTube channels in there as well. You can catch Frank, Steve, and Ronnie with Detect America, 8 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Shelley and Dawn with Can You Dig It, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, both simulcasting. Now that we've got all that out of the way, obviously, for those that saw the post, it's been some time. Actually, I believe the logs indicate the end of February 2021. Where has the time gone? But tonight, we've actually got the great privilege of having Andy back on the show again to discuss the new Nokta Makro Legend Handbook that is now available for you Legend users. If you've got a Legend, you know you need a handbook. They're always very well written. So simple to understand when you read Andy's books. It ain't even funny. That's why I've got a shelf full of them myself. It's a very, very handy book. And obviously for you Deus 2 users, the Deus 2 handbook is hot on the heels of the Legend handbook. So soon, you'll be hearing about it as well. Either way, we've got Andy in tonight to talk about the Legend, his perceptions, impressions of it, things of that nature, as well as some general treasure hunting stories, because any of you that have caught the live shows or the archives, you know he's always got some great treasure hunting stories to share. So enough of me going on about it. Let's get him in here too. How is it going tonight, Andy?
Hey, Josh, great to be on again.
It's great to have you back again. How is the weather where you are?
Well, luckily it's no hurricanes here. We've got decent weather for a change. It's been bone dry for 2 months after a month of solid rain and flooding back in August, but it's been a challenge weather-wise. But so far we've got good weather this week, so we're hoping to get out and do some hunting this weekend.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, definitely get out and put some of these new machines. Continue putting some of these new machines through the paces. I mean, it has been, an interesting 16 months, I guess you could say, with the new machines that we've seen being released. Nokta really kind of got everybody's attention, releasing a machine like the Legend at the price point that they were, I do believe.
Well, I think that Nokta kind of set a bar that dollars does not equal, price tag doesn't equal performance. So I think that kind of shattered that mindset where you got to pay more to get more. And I think what they're showing is the technology's out there with, look at computers. I mean, what you pay, for a computer today, 5 years ago, you couldn't touch it for under a couple thousand. Now you can get it for $200 at Walmart. So I think technology is driving prices down, and I think Nokta would rather make a little on a large number of sales instead of a little on a few sales. So
yeah. I mean, with a price point like that, when you take into consideration the grand scheme of volume of sales, I think it was brilliant business tactics.
Well, I think, if you go back to the Simplex, I think the Simplex really broke the mold because,
yes,
when the Simplex came out, when you looked at the price, when we first saw the prototype, I guess it was in 2019, they were talking about $300 for the base or $350 and $450. And they came out at $100 under that. We saw it over in England. They introduced it at Detective Hall. My wife and I were over there. And when they told us what the price was, I almost, hit the floor. That was an amazing bargain. And then they followed up with it with the Legend.
Right. Yeah, they just one right after the other, and you're right. The Simplex, when I first heard that Nokta was going to be releasing a submersible, waterproof, updatable, rechargeable machine in that price point, I'm like, this I've got to see. 10 years before this, you couldn't touch a waterproof machine for under $1,000. And now here we are, we're getting them for a few $100.
Well, I tell you though, I think what you need to do is I know we're talking Nokta, but Garrett really needs to. People kind of dismiss Garrett at times, but if you think about it, pinpointers have been out in various shape or form for 25, 30 years. And I never used them. They never worked right. They were fidgety. They were tough to adjust. So I never used it. So when Charles was still running the company, he called me up and he said, I want to send you a pinpointer. So I'm like, well, I don't really use them. He said, well, try it, see what you think. And he sent it. And I'm like, well, the ergonomics was ideal. It was simple. You hit the button, it goes on. You hit the button, it goes off. There's no adjustment, no fiddling. And it worked. And I got to the point that literally if I was heading somewhere, I realized I forgot my pinpointer, I'd have to turn around and go home. So Garrett took
they spoiled us.
Yeah, that's it. So they are the ones that set what people think of today as pinpointers. It's just everybody has one. Garrett came up with that. The same thing with waterproof detectors. You don't need, the waterproof detectors that are waterproof to 200 feet or 100 feet. I always say if it's waterproof to 200 feet, it doesn't matter. If you go to 200 feet, you're not coming back up.
Right.
But most people want to wade. They don't want to spend the money for a fully waterproof detector. So Garrett came up with the A.T series, and for a decade they were the only ones that had the wading machine at a $500-600 price point.
Exactly. We went from $1,000 machines to $600 machines to $300 machines.
Right. But nowadays, I think everybody expects a machine to have rechargeable batteries, to be waterproof, at least to 10 feet, 15 feet. And, wireless headphones are the norm anymore. Yep. So I think, technology has moved forward, and what people expect out of a machine, even an entry-level machine, why expect wireless headphones, rechargeable batteries. 10 years ago, nobody had that. And
right.
It just shows you, unless you wanted to spend $1,000 or more to get those features.
And I've said it a number of times here on the show that anymore, with the technology that we have available to us today, there's not really any reason why the manufacturers shouldn't be offering waterproof to 10 feet, or at the very least, weatherproof as a feature right out of the box.
Yeah, I think many of us, it's Murphy's Law, right? The further further away from the car you are, is the more likely the skies are going to open up. And, we take groups over to Europe and England, Scotland, and you're there for 10 days, you got to hunt for 10 days. It doesn't matter if the rain's coming down sideways, you're still going to go out and hunt. So you need a machine that's not going to be ruined because you're out in the rain. And,
exactly.
Your machines nowadays, you've got the capability where it doesn't, you may be waterlogged, but your machine's not waterlogged.
Right. And especially like with you and Charlene doing the tours that you do as well, nobody wants to pack 2, 3, 4 machines to travel abroad.
Right.
Usually those that do will pack at least 2, because you don't want to get that far from home and have a machine malfunction and not have anything to fall back on. But you don't want to have to carry a bunch of unnecessary gear just because you're trying to plan for any weather element you may be in.
Yeah, now one thing I think that's kind of shows, where Nokta is heading, and that is their wireless technology. They moved from their proprietary 2.4 gigahertz technology to Bluetooth, which is the industry standard.
Yes.
So nowadays, the Legend uses pure Bluetooth. So the headphones that come with the machine, they're quality headphones. But if you don't like those headphones, let's say you're a water hunter, you can get waterproof earbuds that are Bluetooth. And you can simply pair them up and you're good to go. As long as they're, low latency, and people say, well, how do you know if it's low latency? I always tell people, we had a guy this evening, I said, just get a set that's designed for computer gaming because they need that low latency. I guess I'm not a gamer, so I can't tell you why they need it, but I don't know if it's to hear somebody sneaking up behind you with a gun. But low latency for gaming, you can get them relatively inexpensively, even at Walmart or online. And, now you've got a machine that's totally wireless and you've got earbuds that are waterproof.
Right. Simply because of the technology that's available to us now. A lot of these things that, 5-10 years ago, you may have had to have paid a nice price tag for. Suddenly now it's at a dramatically lower price.
And it's all built into the machines as well. I mean, before you could have had a plug-in module and another module connected to your headphones, but now it's all built into the machine, which eliminates all that baggage.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one thing I can say about the Legend. The 2.4 gigahertz Green Edition headphones on the previous models of Nokta detectors, they were okay. They weren't a bad pair of headphones, but the headphones for the Legend are very clear and very comfortable.
Yeah, and they're pretty durable. I mean, I hate to say, I don't abuse my stuff, but they've held up for, I had mine since October of last year, so it's over a year now, and they're holding up fine, battery wise and ear cuff wise. A little hot in the summertime, but I think any over the ear headphones are going to be hot when it's Mississippi weather and 100 degrees and 95% humidity. But that's why I went with the earbuds option.
Right. That's also another good point. I mean, if people don't like the over-the-ear option, like you said, they can go the wireless earbud route, and it'll keep them a little cooler in the heat.
Yeah.
Or in the water, for that matter, I guess. You can kind of hear a little better if anybody's sneaking up on you or anything like that.
Yeah, the one thing about water hunting, and I know I've had several people ask me about it, remember, once you get that control pod more than about 4 to 5 inches under the surface, you lose the Bluetooth signal. So if you're going to actually go out neck deep wading or snorkeling, you're going to need to get a set of waterproof wired headphones that screw into the back of the control housing.
Good point. Yeah, you're right. And so far, I have to say, I have not, to the best of my knowledge, heard of any complaints about the seals with the Legend.
No, and I've talked to a lot of people that bought it strictly for water hunting. I talked to one guy here in Mississippi that's all he's done. Granted, it's 100 degrees. I'd be water hunting all the time, too, except in our area, we've got 12-foot alligators, so I'm not in the water that much. But he's been in the water literally from April until now. I've got him actually featured in the book, the new book that just came out. And he's probably put 200-300 hours on that machine and not a leak. Not a bit of problems with that machine.
And I'm sure, just like with your previous handbooks, you've got quite a number of user finds in the book, as well as some of the program settings that they used.
Yeah, and it's funny. Somebody today on one of the Legend Facebook groups had posted a question. Hey, what exactly is in this book? It seems like there was another book that he picked up that he called it a rewrite of the manual. And the reason my books take as long as they do to come out is because it's not Andy Sabisch speaking, this is the way to set your machine. I give you that information. I give you clarity in terms of what each of the functions do and how to adjust them. But the key is, as much as I travel, I still don't know what all the conditions are worldwide. So what I've done is, and this book is no exception, I reach out to guys that use the legend and have got the hours on it, whether it's for prospecting or water hunting or diving or relic hunting, and take that feedback. Give me your settings, but not only that, give me the basis behind why you made those settings, so people can look at the settings and then read the basis and say, my conditions are a little bit different. I'm mineralized ground. I'm non-mineralized ground. I've got more non-ferrous trash. So now I know what to adjust versus just blindly making adjustments and finding out you should have just left it well enough at factory preset. So that the book really incorporates feedback from an awful lot of people from not only in the U.S. but around the world: Canada, Mexico, Australia, Europe. I've got input from one guy in Russia, the Ukraine. So
nice.
That and the finds are the other thing that keep people motivated. You can read about it, but when you see people finding stuff in Europe going back 3,000 years, when you see, the guy here in Mississippi that's got 50 rings on a towel that he's found in the last few months, you see the machine works and the settings behind it. It just helps you get motivated, get out there and start digging stuff for yourself.
Well, and it sounds like whoever it was that had asked this question on the group obviously isn't very familiar with your books, or they would know that you break it down very easy to understand. I mean, the book, as far as past experience with your books, any, insert name of machine here, it's better than any of the manuals are that I've seen, or any of the other books that I've seen written for said machines.
Well, the other thing that I try to do is, YouTube is great, Facebook is great, but unfortunately, the old joke about, Einstein riding a dinosaur, if it's on the internet, it must be true, right? There's an awful lot of good information, but on the flip side, there's bad information. So, I've got one chapter in the book. It says commonly asked questions about the legend, and it's about 10, 12 pages. And it goes through and diffuses a lot of this bad information. I mean, one of my favorite ones is if you switch coils, you have to do a full factory reset. I mean, that's totally, nobody would design a machine where you have to wipe out all your custom settings just to change coils. So, going through and explaining, here's the, how do you set it for relics? Well, here, do I need to use a certain charger for my headphones? Well, here's the answer. So if you've got questions, these have all been validated and we've gone back to the factory and gotten information from the engineers, which kind of, again, that added to the time it took to develop the book, but it makes sure that what we're presenting to people in the book is accurate.
Right, accurate and factual, and that's what we've tried to tell people, especially when a new machine comes out. People are putting up videos, and there's always somebody out there that says, oh, well, you don't want this machine. It's a piece of junk because it can't do this or it can't do that, or it's not made by this manufacturer. And we try to tell people, don't fall into the trap of misinformation. Give the machine a chance to prove itself in the field.
Well, I think, whenever a new machine comes out, it's not long. I mean, days, weeks, hours after a new machine hits when people say, man, I can't believe it. I took this machine out to a worked out 50-acre park and I found 2 silver dimes. And the minute I read that, I'm like, 50-acre parks never worked out. My backyard's not worked out. So, the 50-acre park, it's worked out. I found 2 silver dimes. They never, the other piece that's never in those posts is how deep were the dimes? Did you check it with another machine? Did the other machine have found it? So when we get a new machine in, the first thing we do is we've got a number of sites that are, most are private. There's a few public, but we'll take multiple machines out with poker chips. And we'll take a 40 by 40 area, we'll hunt it, and we'll mark it with poker chips. And then we'll go back with different machines and see, did they hit it? Now, if I've got multiple coins that are targets that one machine hits it, the others don't, that tells me something. If they all hit it, that simply says I got lucky with machine A and not with machine B. So, and then once we get a signal, Then we start playing with the settings to see if we can get it to come in better, stronger, better target ID, better audio. That's what we take and we put those in the book because, it takes us, a week or two of testing on actual in-ground targets. We write it all down, we capture it and make sure it's repeatable. And that's what you'll see in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on this topic actually some episodes back, where essentially kind of like you were saying, somebody, a matter of hours or whatever, testament to the machine. Look, I went out to a worked out area and I pulled up 2 silver coins. But a lot of times when people get their hands on a new machine, they're paying a little closer attention to what they're doing. What sort of signal am I getting? They're being a little more methodical maybe. And they run across these targets, and automatically it's a testament to how great the machine is, when it may not be the case of how great the machine was. You were just paying closer attention because it was a machine you were unfamiliar with.
Exactly. Before you start putting excess discrimination or you're running the machine a lot of times wide open, and you're more willing to take a chance. Let me go see what this signal is.
Right. I got to get used to this machine. Oh, look, it's a silver coin.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely. And we see Shelley's in as well. Welcome aboard. So in the series of books now that you've written, what number does this make? Because I've got a shelf of your books.
Well, as far as the handbook series, this is number 9. The Deus 2 will be number 10. So, as my wife says, it keeps me out of trouble. It keeps me out of the bars at night or whatever. But it's something I enjoy. I think I've told the story on previous broadcasts, and that is, I got into this. My first metal detector was what they call a Viking. It was a 1-knob BFO. Made in Japan, not China. It was made in Japan, 1964. And my parents, my father had it in the back of his Popular Mechanics. I saw it. I said, boy, look at this. You guaranteed to get rich. Find treasure, find gold, find silver. I need one of these things. And it was a whopping $19.95. So they bought it, gave it to me for Christmas, and I figured I'd lose interest in it in 6 months, and I'd be on to the next activity. And, my father's still alive. He's still down in Florida, 98 years old. And he's still amazed that I'm still swinging a metal detector all these years later. But one of the back in the late 60s, early 70s, I had the opportunity to meet people like Michael Paul Henson, Rocky Legay, Charles Garrett, Ken White Sr. And those are people that, imparted what they knew to me. They thought it was interesting, that here's this 10-year-old kid asking questions about metal detectors. And, I stayed friends with both Charles and Eleanor till the end. And, a lot of the other ones that, Bill Mahan from DETECTEES, Tesoro, White's. All of those companies, I knew the owners and founders of those personally, and they shared their knowledge with me. And that's one thing I've always enjoyed, and that is sharing my knowledge with others as well that I've gained over the last 55, 6 years doing this.
Right. It helps. It helps us all to essentially be more successful out there in the field. And we've got Chuck on with us. How is it going, Chuck?
Pretty good. Hey, Andy, old pirate, how you doing?
Mr. Chuck, how you doing this evening?
Not too bad, sir. Not too bad at all. You were talking, we've been winning the past few years on all the technological advances on our machines. And it's amazing compared to, you started with an old BFO out of Japan. I started with a early Whites, tried the Garrett BFO machine, things like that. I couldn't ever get the hang of that BFO. And where we're at now. Where are we going to be in 10 more years, Andy?
You know, about it. I don't know. You know, where is technology going to take us? You know, I remember it must have been 7 or 8 years ago. Lost Treasure magazine. I used to be one of their field editors. I had an article. Magazine came in. I'm reading the magazine. I'm reading this article. I'm reading the article. I'm reading it. I yelled out to my wife. I said, "We're buying one of these detectors. I don't care what the price is. We're buying one." And it was a machine that would see into the ground. I mean, it had some pictures. They were kind of grainy, but you could see a diamond ring in and among some pull tabs. You could see coins below nails. And I'm reading this thing. I'm like, I don't care how much it is. I'm buying this thing. And at the end, it said, April Fools. So, you know,
right.
I think if it gets,
well,
but if it gets to the point that you see what's in the ground, I mean, part of this is skill. I mean, we go back and, you know, Chuck, how many sites do you go back to time and time again to get that one more old coin or that one old relic out of there to prove to yourself, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to find one killer find tonight. And
I mean, you know, every spring after a good hard freeze winter, I go back to 2 particular spots and I keep hunting it. And I have been surprised every time I've went in the past few years. I've taken a new machine, whether it was the Equinox or a Nokta, the Nvidia, or whatever I took. I'd find something.
Right.
I'd find something old, and I'm going, how did I miss that?
Well, but would you want a machine that would show you on a screen what's in the ground? I don't think I would want that. I think, to me, that would then take away the enjoyment of going out there and I'm going to see what I can snake out of the trashiest section of this park or a burned out foundation of an old house. If all I had to do was look on the screen and say, okay, there's a coin, there's a ring, there's a button. I'm not sure it's something I'd enjoy doing anymore.
Right.
You know, it's not necessarily the finding, it's the hunt.
Yep.
It's the anticipation. It's your friends that you get to go out with.
Right.
It's a whole group of things that come together and you have some fun and you're surprised at what you dig up and sometimes you're disappointed, but sometimes you just go back. Any bad day detecting is better than being at work.
Well, to me, metal detecting is the ultimate stress relief. You know, if you got a bad day at work, just come home, grab the detector, go to the local park, and spend an hour digging clad. I mean, just getting out, putting the headphones on, and tuning the world out for an hour. I mean, I did a lot of water, do a lot of water hunting. So the minute I put the mask on and slip onto the surface, I don't, my cell phone's not with me. I don't have to worry about somebody calling. And if I find something, great. If not, I had a great dive for an hour and a half.
It's an escape.
Right. Yeah, that's why it works so well for people that are dealing with PTSD.
That's right.
Yep.
It's helped a lot of my military friends that have had that problem and other people that have had other issues, and it relaxes them, and it's 100% right.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the fines are definitely part of the hunt. I mean, that's why people bought those lottery tickets last weekend, and somebody won $2.1 billion. I mean, I'll get and use my daughter as an example. So when we lived in South Carolina, the lake there would typically they lower it in the wintertime. So there was this one big sandbar that all the boats would tie up, in the summertime, and it was a massive, parties and beer drinking and just having a good old time on the sandbar. So you knew there was stuff that was lost there. Well, we went out there one winter when the lake had gone down. You could more or less walk out there through the water, wade out there, and then the sandbar was high and dry. And took my daughter with me. My daughter's Lee, and she was trying one of the new XTREME, Mind Lab XTREMEs at the time. Well, we're hunting, and I'm digging pull tab, another pull tab. Then I got a zinc penny. Oh, she says, "Oh, look, I got a gold ring." All right, that's great. Digging pull tab, more pennies. She goes, oh, look, another gold ring. So in the span of 3 or 4 hours, she had 4 or 5 gold rings, and I had a heck of a collection of pull tabs and screw caps, and wound up. I think she got a couple $100 just in scrap value of gold in it one day. So she had a great time, but I enjoyed her finding those rings probably more than I would have enjoyed it had I found the gold rings. Just seeing the look on her face when she found those rings.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. But you know what? In the past, when you started doing your books and I started getting a hold of them, and folks, what you got to realize, Andy has a way of breaking it down into layman's terminology to understand what that machine in your hand is doing.
There is nobody that can read that book and not understand what's going on, I would think. I've not seen a better written book. When I ran across his first one, I continued to collect them. They're just great information.
And that's right. And I've had the great good pleasure of being able to hunt with Andy and Charlene, and it's been a lot of fun. But his books, and he and I can agree to disagree on a few minor points, but he's spot on. And, and one of the comments you made earlier, Andy, is we don't know every soil condition. We don't know every place on planet Earth. And you and I both have agreed on this. A setting in Cordova, Illinois is not going to be the same as one in England. And you got to know your machine, and you've helped break that down to know that machine, how to maybe work that soil better when you've traveled.
Exactly. And not only does he go through in the books and explain, hey, here is this setting. This is what this setting does, and this is why you would choose this setting. This is the conditions that you would want to use this setting under.
Right.
And that's the difference between, a book that, it's written from a single perspective versus getting input from others. Because, first of all, like you said, breaking it down and making sure it's factually accurate, but then getting that input from people in England, in Europe, in Australia, in South America, in Canada. I mean, even the coins in Canada, as you know, the coins in Canada are those loonies and toonies. I'd love to find $1 and $2 coins here, but they've got iron cores up there. So Jason Corbett, who's one of the Nokta nomads, gave me some tips. And there's a section in the book on non-U.S. coin hunting, and that's his input to that. So being able to get that information now makes the book applicable to coin hunters up in Canada as well as the U.S.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great addition.
No matter who you know online, who you're hunting with, their settings may not be appropriate to your site because he's in California and you're in Illinois or any of the other states. I mean, Illinois being a long state, you can run from my northeast or northwest corner up here down to the south, and we went into some much more mineralized soil in that 500-mile trip. And if you don't understand what you're working with, you might not do quite as good as you would like to expect.
Well, again, I don't know, in your area, Chuck, I mean, do people hunt with or heat with coal in your area?
Do they what?
Heat with coal?
Or did they heat with coal?
Yes, they did. They do not anymore, but they did.
Right. So when they would empty the furnace, they dump it out in the backyard. So a lot of times, if you hunt those yards, the conditions in the front yard are going to be markedly different than the conditions in the backyard where you've got cinders built up for 50 years of heating. So. Yep.
And I'm in the upper edge of the coal country of Illinois. Not only did they heat with it, they mined it here heavily, mostly strip mining.
Right.
And you got to go down to a little town. You used to go down there a lot and hunt in their park because it down around Preemption, Illinois, it was a heavy-duty mining area, strip mines all over the place, and the earlier machines could not really work well in there. and you had a heck of a time. And the miners were paid in the town at the square weekly, and they had dance halls there, open air type stuff, and it was just literally fantastic to hunt. But once they cleaned out down to about 3 to 4 inches, if you didn't know your machine to eke out an extra couple, you didn't get anything.
Right.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing, like you said, with the book, it goes through each of the controls in a different way than the manual does. It makes it a lot easier to understand. And then when you start looking at the settings that people have provided in each of the chapters for coins or relics or beach hunting, it's clear what they changed and why. But then you can look at it and say, well, if I'm in an area that's got coal cinders, well, I'm going to have to change this control or this control versus just blindly starting to make adjustments. I mean, I've seen people that say, you know, if you're getting electrical interference, first thing you want to do is turn your sensitivity down. That's the last thing you want to do. But, you know, people see that and suddenly it becomes gospel across the Facebook groups.
Exactly. Misinformation.
Yep.
Yep, very true.
You get a lot of that across Facebook and any other social media. Oh, what worked for me today should work for you, but it doesn't. And they can't figure out why at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I had Stephen Patterson rather, was one of the people that gave me some input on the electronic prospecting chapter. And, you know, some of his tips that are proven from both the Georgia gold mining or gold fields he's been into, as well as the GPAA sites out west, they work. So, but if you look at some of the posts that are out there on Goldfield, he's 180 degrees out. I would put my money on his tips because he's proven they work, and there's pictures of what he's found in the book versus somebody that's making a statement, which, for all I know, he's you know, a user of another brand and is trying to convince you to, you know, use settings that don't work. I mean, the one post I loved, he said, if you're looking for nuggets, use the biggest coil you can get. No, you know, you being a prospector, that's 180 degrees out. You want to use the smaller coil.
Yeah, the smaller coil, really using the Equinox 800 up in Alaska, up in those areas, and sniping with that smaller coil, it really picks out some stuff that get missed quite often by other machines and larger coils.
Hey, Chuck, I'll ask you a question since you're the electronic prospector. You ever watch any of those like Australian gold hunting shows?
Yes.
Why don't they ever use a pinpointer once they open the hole up?
Well, I'm going to tell you why on some of them. Not all of them. That ground over there is so hot, some pinpointers will not adjust right, and they will sound almost continuously.
Really?
So they don't work well.
Huh, okay. Well, it always surprised me. They're sitting there, you know, spending 10 minutes looking for a small nugget. I'd say,
right, running the plastic scoop over the coil.
Yeah.
The Profine in some of the hot soils does do okay. The Garrett, as we affectionately call it, carrot, has some issues in that super hot soil. One of the few that I have really, really seen do pretty well is Noktas in some hot soil.
And the XP does pretty well too. The XP.
I haven't used it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the MI6 does do fairly well in the highly mineralized areas.
I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is when you turn the pinpointers on, if the ground is really mineralized, put the tip on and then turn the pinpointer on. Then it'll tune to the ground.
Yes, it will tune.
That's right.
But in some conditions, I don't care what it is, it's not going to work well. It just wants to sit there and argue with you.
Yeah. Yep, chatter. Well, I wonder how many Legend users we've got in the chat. Maybe they've got some questions for Andy and they can call in. If they've got any questions.
Well, if anybody has any questions, bring them up. And I was talking to Josh before the show, so what we'll do is I'll let Josh figure out how we're going to do this, but we've got a couple of books. So we'll give away 2 books. Obviously, if they're Legend books, that'd be great, because actually they just came back from the printer on Monday night. So whoever wants one of those books, we just shipped out the first pre-orders that we got yesterday, so it's literally hot off the press. But so we got 2 books to give away. If you want a Legend book, that's great. If you want one of my other titles, I'll be more than happy to swap you out and send one of those. So I'll let you figure out how you want to pick 2 people, Josh.
And he's got a number of titles to choose from, actually. Definitely got a number of titles to choose from.
No, there's got to be somebody that's got a question. If not, then if there's an easy question, I'll take it. Otherwise, Chuck will take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. All right.
But, well, then, would that be an easy question or a hard question? I saw somebody asked in the chat, when is Andy's magnet fishing book coming out?
Well, I'll tell you.
Charlene ended that one, Andy. He said he needs to take up magnet fishing first.
Well, I'll tell you, the Mississippi River is as low as it's ever been in history. And, they're finding Civil War vintage boats that are appearing out of the water now. Some of the barges can't even get through. I don't think you need magnet fishing. You just sit there and walk around and hope you don't step in quicksand.
Right. Yeah. Or the way the storms are.
People that really survive some problems in that stuff out there. They don't understand that Old Man River out there at all.
Right.
There's spots out there that, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing in some places.
That's true. And for people, hopefully people were paying real close attention too. I'm going to give them a little bit of a pop-up question to the listeners and see how close they were listening and see if anybody can call in and tell us, because Andy mentioned it a while back, what his first metal detector was.
Shelley has a question, and her next line was she's not going to call in, basically. She loves her Legend, but Andy, how many tones do you hunt with?
Either 4 or 6. Again, if I'm, coin hunting, I've got a coin hunting program. It's actually in the book. I use 6 tones, or 4 tones if I'm relic hunting. That would be, iron would be the tone 1. Then the lower numbers would give me the 2nd tone, brass, lead, and then silver obviously would be the 4 tone. So I typically use either 4 tone or 6 tone. 60 tone, it's interesting that each number gives you a different sound tone. I guess I must have been listening to too much heavy metal music growing up, but I can't hear the difference. So I'm just going to stick with 4 or 6 tones.
Okay.
Well, see, and myself, I use the 60 or pitch, depending on the scenario that I'm in.
I got a couple friends that relic hunt. Yeah, for relic hunting, I know several of my friends that use Legends have gone with the pitch tone. They just like, they're not so much worried about what the target ID is. They're just looking, looking for metal in some of these areas where you're hard pressed to get any signal. So they're using pitch mode.
Right. And I became some people, they don't seem to like pitch mode, whether it's Nokta, XP, whatever. And I became a big fan of pitch using the dais when I would get called out for jewelry recoveries that were very recent drops. Pitch mode was a real asset sometimes in those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we've used that for a number of recoveries. And matter of fact, one of them was actually, for a diamond stud earring, which I was surprised it actually hit. But
that was a relatively recent post on your timeline, too, I do believe. You're talking about the 1 carat diamond stud?
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal recovery. Good job.
In the middle of the field, yeah, they got out of a 4-wheeler or, four-wheeler side by side and, were hunting and got out and the earring came off. But,
couple more questions.
Yep.
Now, is that program in your book, is what Shelley's asking. She's between corn sticks as well.
For coin hunting, and there's also a beach hunting program to focus on gold targets. Yep, they're both in there.
And then right behind that, are you back to doing any boot camps anytime soon?
We are looking at trying to roll that out. I'll let Charlene answer. She's on a separate computer. I'll see if she wants to throw something in. Obviously, COVID, I think it took 2 years or 2.5 years out of everybody's life. The hotels are just now starting to reopen their meeting rooms. So they didn't drop their nightly rates. They just got rid of all the amenities, but they're just now starting to let people use meeting rooms. So now that we have meeting rooms, we'll try to look and see what the demand is or what the interest is. Obviously the Deus 2, the Makro coming out and the Equinox are both, of high interest, and then the Legend.
Yeah, really looking forward to the Makro coming out. Hello, Ringfinder.
Hi there. How you doing, Josh?
All right.
I got a question for Andy.
Yep.
Okay.
I want to know what you found in your yard with the Deus 2.
Well, our yard, the one we're living in now, is built in the 70s. So when we moved down here to Jackson, Mississippi, we asked the realtor for an old house, and she said, well, like 70s? I'm like, no, like 1870s. Apparently, up until the 1920s, Jackson was called Chimneyville because Sherman, after they took Jackson twice, once on the way to Vicksburg and once on the way back from Vicksburg, burned everything to the ground. And up until the 20s, it literally was nothing but burned out chimneys, so they called it Chimneyville. We've got another piece of property in Vicksburg, and we've done really well there. We found it's literally borders. The National Park Service borders our property, and we're 100 feet from one of the monuments. So, we found, everything from bullets to shell fragments to buttons and buckles and stuff. My wife has pretty much schooled me on how to relic hunt every time we go up there. I'm digging nails and she's digging bullets. But
so do we have to come down there to have one of your classes, or are you going to come back to Michigan or Ohio or Gettysburg or what?
Yeah, we'll come back on the road. I mean, some of the spots, I know a lot of people have asked about Gettysburg. We've actually got some property there that we've got access to. People enjoyed going to the classes up there. But yeah, we're going to look at trying to schedule them starting into 2023. I did one
of your classes up in Michigan. Indiana one time. Near Chicago.
Yeah, I think we did. We took you guys to a park there that turned out to be something must have been there before the 20-year-old park was built, because people pulled some barber and older silver out of there as well.
Yep. Right, sure did. But I just had I don't know if I had the Deus. I did. I had the Deus 1 then.
Yeah.
I've had it quite a while now. In fact, the screen's about shot, but I'm still using it.
Yeah, when new machines come out, people think that, hey, the Deus 2 came out means the Deus 1 doesn't work anymore. And, I've got to laugh.
I'm still finding a large sense with it, and I found like 4 a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, it's still working.
The Deus 1 is still a great machine, and maybe they should have called it something other than the Deus 2. But, an interesting story about the Deus is several years ago, Elaine actually came over to the U.S., and we had him down in Charleston, South Carolina. And my daughter was with us at the time, so she got a chance to meet Elaine, the owner of the company. And he said, "I'd bring some machines along. We'll go down to the beach." So we took, I don't know, half a dozen machines, top of the line units, and we were marking targets in the wet sand. And he's marking a few targets, and I went over one of them with a CTX, and I didn't even get a beat. And he's holding the machine 10 inches off the ground. He's getting a solid signal. I'm like, wait a minute. I went over with my Deus. I didn't get a signal. I said, let me see that. So I took the machine out of Elaine's hand. I went over there, and I got a solid signal and a good target ID. And I'm looking at him going, what are your settings? I'm hitting the button. I'm like, what is this menu? And he just kind of had this big grin on his face. He took the machine back. And it was the predecessor of the Deus too. And it blew me away with what it could do in the wet sand. And, it was funny. I kept trying to get that machine in the worst way. He wasn't letting that out of his hand once he showed me what it could do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, both my buddies, Mike Spicer's got one now. I listen to his once in a while. So, yeah, he found a Confederate breastplate here in Ohio, and I think he sold it for around $7,000 or $10,000. So not too bad.
Yeah, he did
well. I'll bring my daughter back into it again. So when we were living in South Carolina, they were getting ready to clear an area for Walmart that was going to go in, and it was an old farm, abandoned, just walking distance literally from the house. So we went out there to hunt this, and we didn't kill it. I mean, we were finding some targets, but my daughter found a CSA rectangle.
Wow!
And I still got it in the shop here. But, it's still sitting there in the shop. So one day, if she wants it, it'll hang on her wall. But for now, it's hanging in my wall.
Yeah, but Andy, you're talking about a Civil War site where he found his plate was out in a field here in Ohio. Civil War soldiers' log cabin site.
Yeah, I got a beautiful U.S. breast or an eagle plate that I found in upstate New York in a schoolyard right underneath the swing set. So what was that doing there? That must have been some kid brought it in for show and tell 100 years earlier and lost it.
No doubt about that, for sure. Yeah.
So how you doing, Dennis? I know, I don't want to sidejack the conversation, but I haven't seen you since DIV.
Yeah, that's for sure. I didn't go this time. My wife fell and broke her leg, so
sorry to hear that.
Nursing her back to health, so didn't get to go this fall. I know a lot of guys up there, and over the phone, I was telling them where to go. And they did pretty well. Yep. So, but the next couple of days, we got one more day at Beauregard. And then after that, we had 2 more days, but they're going to get grounded with hurricane coming up with the rain in Virginia.
Well,
we might get it here in Ohio, too.
Yeah, well, that's why you need a machine that's waterproof. It's, that's Josh, as we were talking earlier, the new machines, GPX, I hate to take a $4,000 or $5,000 machine out in the pouring rain. But if you've got a Legend or a Deus 2, you can just go out there, and as long as you can deal with the water, you're good to go.
The Deus 2 doesn't work. Well, it may work. I don't know what it's going to do up there. I asked some guys to try it. But you're talking Culpeper red dirt soil, and you know where that's at.
Yeah, VLF.
Yeah, VLF. So I know they got some Garrett's. Garrett's, I believe, the new one out. Nugget Noggins up there hunting with it. So they found bullets at 16 inches with it already. With
the Axiom.
That's the new Axiom.
Yep. Yeah, there was about 4 guys using it up there, and they were doing fairly well with it. So the new machines are coming out. They're just, and the Deus set the stage for all of them, as far as I'm concerned. They changed the market for everybody, all the different manufacturers. Only thing is, White's was so far behind that they just couldn't catch up. So
same with Tesoro.
Been around a long time.
Yeah. Well, Josh, you got any more questions? Any other questions come in?
I have not seen any.
I've got one for you, Andy, from Michelle. It's not really a question. It's a statement. She's saying going from simplex to the Legend, multi-frequency scares her. And I was just going to address that or let you address it. I don't see multi-frequency fear in using a multi-frequency machine.
Yeah, there's nothing to fear. There's only advantages and benefits to gain.
Yeah, and that's why I think, again, I don't want to keep plugging the book, but the book covers what the advantages are. And, multi-frequency is not the end-all and be-all for all machines, because some people think if it's not multi-frequency, it's obsolete. There are times, we had a guy this evening that picked up a legend that we were showing him that, air conditioning and fluorescent lighting drives the machine nuts in multi-frequency. But if you go to 10 or 15 kilohertz, it quiets it right down. So there may be times where if I'm looking for a specific type of target, like jewelry, I'm going to hunt 40 kilohertz. I'm going to hunt 40 kilohertz and get that sensitivity. Or if I want to find silver coins, I'm going to run at 4 kilohertz. But multi-frequency is going to give you a spread. It's going to give you the best of all worlds. But if the conditions tell you, hey, the machine's going to tell you when something's not right. The book tells you how to interpret what the machine's telling you. If the machine's not running smooth, there's something not set right. You just need to be sure you understand what that is to make the right adjustment.
Right.
And she says thank you on there, Andy.
Okay.
Oh, well, see, I didn't even see that one. That one slipped past me.
Well, it got moving pretty fast for a few minutes there, so.
Right.
And then Frank was telling something there that you said your friend found that breastplate in an Ohio field. Well, he's right on the comment that he made here, Morgan's Raiders. It wasn't Morgan's Raiders.
Hey, I was going to say, actually, with
Ohio.
Yeah, with that one, that was not from Morgan's Raiders.
No. Well, I'm just saying, he put that comment out there for it.
What surprises me is how many people I've talked to, and I think I've got a guy in the Deus 2 handbook that's got 2 beautiful U.S. belt plates that he found out in the mountains in California. So after the Civil War, when they headed west, you can find Civil War artifacts, that were from the 1860s, 70s, 80s out there in Utah and Wyoming and California, the mountain for the gold rush. I mean, they brought that stuff with them.
Absolutely. They went home or they traveled, and people wonder, well, how did these wind up here? Well, that's how.
And some of the areas, I mean, if you look at the Charleston area, my daughter lives down in Charleston now, and you look at some of the artifacts that come out of there, I mean, in that sugar sand, I mean, I found a Confederate Navy button 15, 20 years ago. It still had 90% of the gold plating on it. You'd think it was a reenactor's button, but obviously it wasn't. But the ground there is so benign that you can literally find artifacts. You just blow the sand off, and it looks like it was lost, a month ago, not 150 years ago.
Right. Well, 2 Indian War military buttons were found on this last trip in Alaska at the old digs that we worked at with the detectors, and they were digging up Indian War buttons. 1898, 1899.
I dug Indian War buttons up in Montana.
So, I tell you, I always look at some of those. We go up to, we've been to Alaska and through the Yukon, and I can't imagine. I mean, I was sitting there in an air-conditioned car or a heated car, and can you imagine the old-timers that walked up that pass, to get over the mountains into the Yukon, up to the British Columbia and up to the Nome area. I mean, I can't imagine living through that without, hey, let me get up and turn the heat up a little bit and then get back and watch TV. So come on here, Josh. We got to figure out who's going to get 2 books of their choice, 1 book of their choice, 2 people. How do you want to do this?
Well, that's what we've been working on, actually. And I'm going, here in a minute, I'm going to have Chuck call out one.
Well, you asked a question. Did anybody answer the question, what was the name of my first metal detector?
That's right. Do you care to take a stab at that, Denny?
Relco, probably.
No, I have one. Got a Relco, but it's not it. Relco was 3 or 4 years later.
Yep, I heard it, but I don't remember what it was now. your dad got it for you.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually traded it for a fishing pole when I was in 6th grade. And I kicked myself ever since. And I finally told people, look, if you can find one, I'll pay you whatever you want. I'll trade you a metal detector for it. And a friend of mine out west found one at a garage sale, brand new. I mean, it still had the stickers on it. And it was, so that's hanging on my wall right now, and it still works. Still has.
Does it have a cardboard coil?
No. It's plastic. It had a 5-inch plastic coil on it. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah. Guy on here says a Heath kit.
No, I've got a Heath kit GD 348. My father and me built that. Actually, he built it, and I watched him. But I used that too. That was in the 1970s. We're back. We're about 10 years too late.
Yeah,
yep.
I know that. Sure. A lot of guys have Velcros. I know that.
Radio Shack. Nope. Somebody told me I'm in the wrong state of Ohio for Morgan's Raiders. I just threw that out there because Frank did. I'm not sure where it was found at.
No, it was found in Ohio, but it was not tied to Morgan's Raiders.
No, not at all. He found it like 2 years ago, and that Morgan Raiders hunch was a long time ago. I went to like 3 of those easily.
And I know Mike, and as you know, Denny, Mike's not far from me, so we do talk, and I did hear about it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I don't see that. Somebody just said Sears.
No, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. So,
actually, to tell you the truth, Andy, he hunts with Equinox 800 and the Deus 2 now. I think he still has his Deus 1.
I believe he does.
He hunts with quite a few of them. He doesn't just stick with one. So it depends on what the ground conditions are. If it's real muddy and real not plowed or anything, a lot of times he'll take the Equinox out. So I got an Equinox, and every time I get it out, I got to get my manual out and read it and see how to turn it on even. Because I just use my Deus almost all the time. And I use a high-frequency coil, which your D2 is already high-frequency. It doesn't need a high-frequency coil. But
it covers the Deus 2 covers the range from low frequency to high frequency.
Right.
So
they go a lot. The frequencies go a lot higher on the D2 than my D1. So, but I mess with them all the time. If I'm in property where the EMI is really high, I'm messing with it until I can get it down to where I can hunt. So that's what it's for. That's what the different things are. People just leaving the same thing all the time. You miss a lot, I think. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Chuck just randomly look at his screen and pick a name out of the chat.
Oh, you're going to have me pick somebody? Wow, that's fun. Let's see who's in the chat here.
Pick 2 names, and we'll get their mailing addresses and let me know which book they want. We'll go ahead and drop it in the mail for them.
Okay. Well,
so I'm going to have Chuck pick one, and then I'm going to grab one.
Okay. Well, I'm picking somebody out here that she has a simplex, but moving from the simplex to a legend scared her, so maybe she needs the book to learn on that simplex. How about Michelle?
All right. That works.
Well, there you go. Hopefully you know how to get in touch with her, Chuck.
I don't. I'm going to tell her to get in touch with you. Michelle is, I hope she's still on.
Yeah, she's still on.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Michelle, I picked you for the book. You're going to have to get a hold of Josh Kimmel. Send your info to him, and they'll get that book out to you.
Oh, yep, there she is. I see her in the chat. She's OMG.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So there you go. If she was able to find out about the show and find her way into the chat, then she certainly knows how to track me down.
You got it. And she's asking questions.
Right. She did have some questions. So she's going to have to get in touch with me through Facebook and let me know her shipping address and what book she would like. I think a legend book would do her quite well.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe she'll even mention in the chat what book she would like.
And nobody did get his detector brand. That question popped up a second ago.
Yeah, nobody. They have to call in for that one.
Yep. If you come up with that, I'm quite sure that's a guaranteed book.
Well, I'll tell you what. If somebody gets it at this point, it'll be a guaranteed pinpointer. How about that?
Ooh.
That's why they need to call in.
I'd rather have
That's
a book.
right.
So if you get it and call in, I'll give you a hint. If you've got one of my old books, other books, you may find it listed in the beginning section. I do have it in one or two other books. So if you've got one, you might find it there, but you get a free pinpointer out of the deal. If you can remember the one name and it ends with a G, so I'll give you a hint. I'm not going to give you the first letter.
I bet I know which book that's in too. I think it had a blue cover on it.
Yeah, I think there's somebody from Iowa that's in there. Yeah, it's an expert.
But they have to call in.
on the machine that I still think head and shoulders above a lot of the others is that Equinox. And don't get me wrong, I like the Deus. Don't come in bashing me about Deus.
No, I mean, I think you're right, Chuck. I mean, if you think back over the last 50 years, I mean, there's been a few machines that have really moved the needle. I mean, go back to Technetics, the original, not First Texas, the original Technetics with the 9000 and the 8500. I mean, that machine was revolutionary. Target ID and depth on the same screen at the same time. Phenomenal machine. Then you got the VLF machine when Whites came up with the Coinmaster 5 Supreme and Bounty Hunter came up with the Red Baron. I mean, those are early machines that really moved the needle. And then after that, you got the Fisher 12 series, with the S-Rod. You've got, the Garrett AT with the waterproof capabilities to 10 feet, which really opened up shallow water beach hunting. Before that, I mean, we were building machines and floating them on inner tubes and praying they didn't get wet or flip over. So,
we've actually got
that early Whites and we're in the coil.
Yep.
We've actually got two callers on, and our first one here has had the privilege to run some of those machines you're speaking about. How's it going, Superstar?
It's going good. It's going good. Now, I may have had to take a quick meeting, so I'm not sure of the question you were asking. Was it Andy's first machine?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't want the pinpointer. I will get one of Andy's books, but what I want is if Andy's going to give away a pinpointer for the correct answer, then it goes to Barb and the kids.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
I can make that happen.
It's a Viking.
That's
You're right.
Correct.
Not many of us left.
I wasn't even going to call, but I figured good opportunity to score a piece of something for the Christmas thing for the kids.
Nice job, Frank.
There you go.
That's all. Andy, I'll talk to you Monday.
All right, man. You got I appreciate your
you
input to the book. You'll see Frank.
I appreciate it. I sent your wife a message to make sure you have my new address.
Where's that? The local hurricane shelter?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. Send that in waterproof packaging, by the way.
Yeah, so what, you've been down there, a month and a half or 2 months and had 2 hurricanes already?
And COVID.
I've literally run. I've spent more time running from hurricanes than I have in my house. So, but I think we'll survive this one. It looks like we're going to be okay here on this side of the state. But
yeah, my father's on the other side. Yeah, my father's on the East Coast, so I'm talking to him.
So he's getting hit with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's 98 and didn't. He said, probably should have had somebody put my shutters up, but he didn't. So I'm hoping tomorrow.
I know Daytona's taking a beating a little bit, but it's mostly damage to the beach. The sand's getting washed away. So hopefully everybody's gonna structures or anything going to hang in there.
Well, I figure you'll be beating feet over there, Frank, in about 5 days. 4.
I know. I'm waiting to see it's going to make a U-turn over here on the west side. I'm hoping to choose up a few of these beaches too.
I'd be out hunting all the cuts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can tell we're treasure hunters. You know, you hate to see the damage, but you're hoping there's damage at the beach, right?
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
always.
You don't want to see anybody get hurt. Just reveal a little bit
Nobody
of
gets hurt. Keep the houses up on the shore, but wash that beach down some more.
Absolutely.
All
right, guys, get back to it. I'm not going to hijack the show. I get accused of that too much.
All right, yeah, we'll go ahead and that, Frank. I appreciate the call in.
No problem, buddy.
Nice.
All right, so Josh, you're going to pick one more name, right?
That's right. And I've got I just scrolled down through and randomly looked at the screen, and I've got the name, and it is Celeste Rolls.
Oh.
Congratulations to Celeste.
So let me know what book she wants, and we'll go ahead and get that signed copy out to her.
Right. So for Celeste, make sure and get in touch with me. Let me know your shipping address and what copy of the book you would want, whether it's a Legend or one of his other handbooks, barring the Deus 2. It's not released yet. And I will get that information off to Andy, and he'll get that out in the mail, or Charlene will. I'm not sure how that works. That's out of my hands.
She takes care of all the packing, and I just sign my John Hancock. So she does all the work. I don't.
Ah, I see. And Celeste looks like she's saying she wants the Legend handbook.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get that out again. Brand new, right off the press. The ink is still warm. So.
Right. So I will need the addresses of Michelle and Celeste. You can get that to me or get that to Andy. Either one, I'm sure, will suffice. And I have the address already for Barb for the Christmas giveaway for the pinpointer. That I can get that out to Andy tonight yet. So congratulations to Celeste and Michelle and I guess Frank / Christmas giveaway.
There you go.
That's going to be a lot of happy kids.
It's been a great pleasure again, and we'll chat and stay out of trouble and go out and find something good. Josh, I'll talk to you later. I'll back out of here so you guys can wrap it up.
All right. Again, appreciate it. It's always fun talking to you, and hopefully we can make the next year's hunt. We won't have our issue with the rental car like we did this year. So I apologize.
I hope so too, Andy.
There you go.
So that I'll be at a meeting next week for dates and setup times and all that, and try and get that out, and we'll see how it works out, my friend.
Sounds like a plan.
And when that information comes down, obviously, people will get that quite shortly over here on Beyond Sight and Sound.
Yes,
definitely.
We will.
Very cool.
Take care.
And for those interested,
be safe out there for me.
You too, Chuck. Thanks for the call. And for those interested in the Legend Handbook, obviously, you can get that through Shooters and Prospectors. He does have a order in. He will be carrying those as he does any of Andy's handbooks. And I'm sure that you can also get them from Treasure Hunting Outfitters as well. So that's one to keep in mind too.
Don't forget, holidays are coming. Holidays are coming. Good Christmas stocking stuffers.
Yeah, exactly. Stocking stuffers. And it's a stocking stuffer that's not going to break the bank either. It's a perfect gift for that treasure hunter that you know. With the Equinox, when the Equinox first came out, I was telling people that's a good machine. You're set up well. Now, the best accessory you can get for that machine is Andy's handbook.
I appreciate it. A lot of work goes into it. I mean, it's not a sit down and write it in 3 days and kick it out. So it's been a work in the works for a while. And again, getting input and taking 10 people's input or 15 inputs and trying to make it all sound cohesive and the same. I get input from some people, particularly where English isn't their primary language. I write it up and send it back to them and says, read this. Well, that's what I meant to say. That's the trick, to make it all sound like it's written by the same person.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if we had covered it on the show or not. I know we did before the show, but it's hard to put these together as the machine is literally evolving as you write the book.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the frustrating thing. There may be another update to the Legend. We don't know at this point, but I got tired of waiting, and I just said at this point it's got to be released. And the book was done. That's like the Deus. I mean, we're going to pull the trigger and issue it. I mean, there may be an update, there may not be an update, but the problem, like you said, Josh, every time there's an update, I got to go back and rewrite or add functions or features or settings that didn't exist on the previous version. So this book is current up through what's out there now, which is 1.09.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say 1.09.
Yep, that's the current. That's what's in this book now.
Right. And if that is not the version you are running, you should be. Not to mention, if I remember correctly, if you are purchasing a new Legend, it should already be, at this point, they should all be 1.09. But if you get one that's been sitting on the shelf for a while, I believe, I'm sure Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was going to be something to indicate what version it was running, so you knew if you needed to update, plus the update utility tool will tell you if you're up to date or not. And obviously, when the Legend boots up, you will see what version it's running as it boots up.
Yeah, in the upper right corner when you turn it on, 1.05 is what most of the machines were. The more recent ones are 1.09, but the update takes seconds. People have had issues with it. Just make sure you turn your antivirus off. Make sure when you plug the machine in.
Good point.
Follow the directions. Again, people think they know how to do it. Just follow the pictures on the screen. Plug it in here, plug it in there, then turn it on, then press this button. The machine will do its thing. Don't try to be smarter than the update utility. They pretty much made it so that it works every time. And it's for an Apple, it's for Macs as well as a PC, Windows.
Yeah, which is another notable commendation on Nokta's part, where we've seen other manufacturers come out with machines, issue updates or software for the updates, but they only offer it for PC or Mac. Where if you're a Mac user and it's only offered for PC, then you've got to find a Windows-based system to even get your machine updated. And Nokta did make that compatible for either platform. Very cool.
I knew people that were taking their machines to the public library and downloading the install tool on for example, for the Equinox. That's the way they were doing the updates.
Oh, wow. The thought just never occurred to me, I guess. But yeah, that I suppose that would be an option. It may get some strange looks, but that would be an option.
When I look at some of like the bow hunting cases or the gun cases where you figure out what machine will, what'll work as a carrying case, I've walked into Walmart before with two metal detectors, and they look at you like you got three heads. And then I'm taking the guy just doesn't even want. I'm not even going to ask what you're doing, but let me know when you've made your selection.
Nice. That's got to be a real hoot for the employees. It keeps them on their toes, I'm sure. Definitely. Anything else you'd like to cover before we roll out of here, Andy?
No, again, I appreciate the opportunity. I always have a great time on the show, and hopefully everybody enjoyed the banter tonight. Again, good hearing from Dennis. Hadn't talked to him in a while, and it's always fun talking to Chuck. And always enjoy your show there, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. And we appreciate you for taking the time to be on with us as well. It's always a pleasure, and who knows, maybe we can have you back when the Deus 2 handbook is released.
Like you said, talk about a few more treasure hunting stories, and again, I'll make sure you get a copy as well. There, make sure you add to your collection.
Oh, nice, very, very much appreciated. Hang in there with me for a couple minutes, and we'll get out of here, Andy. For everyone else, obviously, check out the links in the description. You can find the link for Treasure Hunting Outfitters as well as Shooters and Prospectors. If you would like to get yourself a copy of the Legend Handbook or any of Andy's other books that he has published, his handbooks, he doesn't just publish handbooks. He has published others. So check that out. If you enjoyed the show, throw us a like. Until the next one, have a wonderful evening, folks. We're going to roll.